If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns, a team that has always seemed to teeter on the edge between brilliance and disaster, are once again under the microscope. And this time, the focus isn't on the quarterback carousel, or on another coaching change, or even on the most recent heartbreaking loss. It's on the man behind the curtain, the so-called architect of the Browns' grand plan, Chief Strategy Officer Paul DePodesta. Hired in January 2016, DePodesta has quietly been one of the most influential voices in Berea for nearly a decade. But with the Browns sitting at a dismal 55-98-1 record during his tenure, many are starting to wonder, what exactly does Paul DePodesta do, and why hasn't it worked? When the Browns first brought DePodesta on board, it was a bold, even revolutionary move for the NFL. Cleveland was coming off a 3-13 season that left fans numb and ownership desperate. The Haslams, in their search for innovation, turned to analytics, the same analytical approach that helped DePodesta build success in Major League Baseball with the Oakland Athletics, immortalized in Moneyball. It was a wild concept. If analytics could change baseball, why couldn't it change football? The Browns wanted to be the smartest team in the room. They hired DePodesta to help bring a data-driven, efficiency-based mindset to roster construction and football operations. To some, it sounded like the dawn of a new era. To others, it sounded like Silicon Valley invading the gridiron. But let's not sugarcoat it. The first few years were an absolute disaster. DePodesta was paired with Sashi Brown, a former lawyer with zero football management experience. Their plan was simple on paper: tear everything down, collect draft picks, free up cap space, and build the youngest, most cost-efficient roster in the league. It was logical in theory, but painful in practice. Over 2 seasons, the Browns went 1-31, including a winless 0-16 campaign in 2017 that became a national punchline. The so-called analytics era turned into a horror movie for Browns fans, and by the end of it, many were ready to burn the playbook and start over again. Ownership blinked first. The Haslams decided to pivot from the nerds to the football guys, bringing in John Dorsey, the man who helped turn the Kansas City Chiefs into a powerhouse. Dorsey was everything DePodesta wasn't: old school, aggressive, obsessed with raw talent over spreadsheets. He swung big in the draft, brought in marquee players, and created buzz around the team. For a moment, it felt like maybe, just maybe, the Browns were back. But underneath the surface, dysfunction festered. Hugh Jackson was fired mid-season. Freddie Kitchens, a likable but inexperienced coach, was promoted, and by the end of 2019, both Kitchens and Dorsey were gone. The internal friction, the lack of alignment, and the competing visions had once again left the Browns in pieces. Enter the next phase of the DePodesta experiment. After the Dorsey debacle, the Haslams went back to the analytics-first model, giving DePodesta even more influence. He handpicked Kevin Stefanski as head coach and brought in Andrew Berry as general manager, both known for their analytical leanings and calm, methodical approach. The three, DePodesta, Stefanski, and Berry, branded themselves as a unified brain trust. Their mantra was alignment. No more chaos, no more power struggles. Every decision would be made together, through careful analysis and shared vision. For a brief moment, it looked like that philosophy might actually pay off. In 2020, the Browns broke through, winning 11 games and not only making the playoffs, but defeating the hated Pittsburgh Steelers in their own house. That one felt like an exorcism of 2 decades of failure. Stefanski was named NFL Coach of the Year. Baker Mayfield looked like the franchise quarterback fans had been praying for. The city of Cleveland dared to believe that the nightmare was finally over. But as it turns out, the curse of the Browns runs deeper than one good season. Since that playoff run, the Browns have slowly spiraled back toward mediocrity. Stefanski, now in his 6th season, holds a 41-48 record, and the team has reached the playoffs just twice. Over the last 2 years, they've gone 4-19. The offense has regressed, the defense is inconsistent, and the supposed alignment between DePodesta, Berry, and Stefanski looks more like a loop of the same mistakes repeating in new packaging. And through it all, one man has remained untouched: Paul DePodesta. It's hard not to question what his strategy actually is. or if it even exists beyond buzzwords and PowerPoint slides. Because while the Browns' leadership keeps promising that they're building the right way, the results speak for themselves. The team's identity remains unclear. The front office decisions, from draft picks to trades to free agent signings, have been hit or miss at best. And the roster, the product of nearly 10 years of so-called strategic planning, feels strangely similar to the one DePodesta inherited: old, overpaid, and lacking elite talent. The most glaring example of that failure might be the Deshaun Watson trade. It was the kind of move that screamed desperation. The Browns, tired of the endless quarterback carousel, sold the farm to acquire Watson, a player with undeniable talent but surrounded by controversy and uncertainty. They gave him the most guaranteed money in NFL history, betting their future on a quarterback who hadn't played in over a year. The idea was to finally have a franchise QB who could go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. Instead, the deal has turned into a disaster. Watson's play has been inconsistent, his availability spotty, and the team's flexibility destroyed by his massive contract. What's worse is that there doesn't seem to be a plan B. The Browns went into this season with what can only be described as a quarterback island of misfit toys, turning their QB room into a four-man competition with no real frontrunner. It's the kind of approach that might look clever on paper, but falls apart under the lights of the NFL. Fans are left wondering if there's any real vision behind the decisions, or if DePodesta's analytics-driven model has become an excuse for endless mediocrity. And it's not just the quarterback situation that's shaky. The roster as a whole is riddled with problems. The offensive line is aging. The receiving core lacks explosion. The defense, while talented in flashes, can't seem to sustain dominance. Each offseason, Stefanski assures reporters that the team will get better, but the truth is, the personnel just isn't very good. When you watch college football on Saturdays, you start realizing how few obvious prospects there are who could walk into Cleveland and immediately make a difference. It's a grim outlook for a team that was supposed to be built smarter than everyone else. The numbers don't lie. 55 wins, 98 losses, and one tie since DePodesta joined the organization. That's not a strategy, that's stagnation. A decade is more than enough time to see whether a philosophy works. And while DePodesta might be a genius on paper, football is not baseball. The margins are smaller, the variables greater, and the human element impossible to quantify. The Browns tried to outthink the sport, but it feels like they've only managed to outthink themselves. And as if the front office drama weren't enough, the latest news from the NFL insider circuit adds more fuel to the fire. Jeremy Fowler from ESPN reports that the Browns are likely to be sellers at the trade deadline, a clear sign that the team is waving the white flag on yet another disappointing season. According to Fowler, the team is expected to trade running back Jerome Ford, turning the backfield over to rookies Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. Ford, who has logged over 1,300 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns across the last 2 seasons, could attract interest from contenders. It's a pragmatic move, sure, but it also feels like another admission of failure, another reset in a franchise that has already reset too many times to count. There's even talk that tight end David Njoku could be next on the trade block. It's becoming clear that the Browns are preparing to stockpile draft picks once again, the same tactic DePodesta and Sashi Brown used nearly a decade ago. It's like watching history repeat itself, only this time with less optimism and more resignation. Browns fans have seen this movie before, and they know how it ends. And that's the real tragedy of it all. The Browns aren't just losing games, they're losing belief. The city that bleeds orange and brown deserves better than endless experiments and empty promises. Fans have bought into every new era, every new coach, every new quarterback, hoping that this time would be different. But 10 years later, after all the analytics, all the alignment, and all the strategic jargon, the results are painfully familiar. Paul DePodesta was supposed to be the brain that outsmarted the NFL. Instead, his tenure has become a case study in how intelligence without adaptability can doom a franchise. The Browns' problems aren't just about players or coaches, they're structural. They're philosophical. And unless something changes at the very top, this cycle of failure will keep spinning. Maybe it's time to admit that what works in baseball doesn't necessarily translate to football. Maybe it's time for the Browns to stop chasing models and start chasing wins. Because right now, the data doesn't lie, and it's painting a picture of a franchise stuck in a decade-long loop of false hope and unfulfilled promise. Until the leadership learns to balance analytics with instinct, numbers with nuance, and theory with grit, Cleveland will keep looking up from the bottom, wondering when the real breakthrough will come. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. The Cleveland Browns have just shaken the NFL world to its core, and fans across the league are still trying to process the magnitude of what's reportedly happening. Sources close to the organization suggest that the Browns have finalized what could be one of the most audacious quarterback trades in recent memory, involving not one, but two high-profile signal callers, Bo Nix and Tua Tagovailoa. If these rumors hold water, we could be witnessing a move that doesn't just alter the depth chart. It could fundamentally reshape the trajectory of Cleveland's entire season. In a league where quarterback decisions are dissected endlessly, this dual acquisition signals a bold gamble from a front office that seems unwilling to settle for mediocrity, no matter the risks. The timing, according to insiders, is impeccable. With injuries mounting across the NFL and playoff races tightening, the Browns may have found themselves staring down a window of opportunity, one they refuse to let slip by. The chatter began quietly, as most monumental trades do. Sources hint that discussions between the Browns, the Dolphins, and other involved parties had been ongoing for weeks, cloaked in layers of secrecy and NDAs, each conversation more intense than the last. Front office executives were reportedly working around the clock, crunching numbers, evaluating cap space, and weighing long-term implications, all while trying to gauge how fans, and perhaps more importantly, the locker room, would respond to such a seismic shift. The acquisition of Bo Nix and Tua Tagovailoa simultaneously seems, on the surface, almost reckless, but there's a method to what some are calling the mad genius strategy of the Browns. With Nix's raw athleticism and arm strength paired with Tua's precision and cerebral approach to the game, the team could be setting up a quarterback tandem that allows for unparalleled versatility, a chess match at the highest level that few teams could even attempt to orchestrate. Bo Nix, whose journey has been closely watched since his college days, arrives with a reputation for mobility, arm talent, and a willingness to take risks that can flip a game in a single play. His presence in Cleveland, if confirmed, introduces a dynamic element to the offense that could force opponents to rethink their defensive strategies entirely. Meanwhile, Tua Tagovailoa, a polished and methodical quarterback, brings a contrasting style that offers stability and precision. The juxtaposition of these two distinct skill sets is already being called a coaching puzzle and a tactical opportunity, in whispers from insiders. It's the kind of move that could either catapult the Browns into contention or leave fans scratching their heads in disbelief if the integration doesn't go as smoothly as hoped. Early rumors suggest that the coaching staff has been preparing contingency plans for both quarterbacks, anticipating scenarios where each could take the lead depending on opponent, matchup, or even the momentum of a single pivotal game. As the sports world digests this potential double trade, the ripple effects extend far beyond Cleveland. Analysts and former players are reportedly scrambling to project how this could impact the balance of power in the AFC. The Browns, historically perceived as a team teetering between promise and disappointment, might suddenly emerge as a wild card, an unpredictable force capable of toppling any opponent on a given Sunday. Social media is already buzzing, with fans divided between excitement and skepticism. The dual trade has prompted a flurry of memes, speculation threads, and heated debates across every platform, reinforcing the notion that the NFL is no longer just about the plays on the field, but also about the drama and strategy that unfold behind the scenes. Some insiders suggest that rival teams are quietly reassessing their own quarterback situations, fearful that Cleveland's daring maneuver could force a cascade of adjustments league-wide. Speculation around the locker room reaction is equally compelling. Players reportedly have mixed feelings, some exhilarated by the idea of working with two talented quarterbacks, others concerned about how roles and leadership dynamics might shift. Sources hint that there could be a delicate balancing act required to manage egos, maintain cohesion, and prevent potential friction, especially when both quarterbacks have proven they can command a huddle. Coaches are reportedly devising creative rotations, unique practice plans, and even specialized playbooks tailored to each quarterback's strengths, aiming to extract the maximum potential from what might be the NFL's most intriguing quarterback experiment in years. Rumors also suggest that team meetings have become charged affairs, with assistant coaches and offensive coordinators poring over film, attempting to predict every conceivable scenario where either Nix or Tua could carry the team to victory or stumble under pressure. The financial implications are another layer fueling the speculation. Contract negotiations, salary cap considerations, and potential incentives tied to performance are all reportedly part of the ongoing calculations. Industry insiders suggest that the Browns' front office has had to navigate a labyrinth of clauses and conditional terms to bring both players into the fold without jeopardizing future flexibility. Some whispers even hint at creative structuring of deals that could allow the team to pivot quickly if circumstances change, reflecting a level of strategic foresight that could become a hallmark of Cleveland's approach this season. This, combined with the potential marketing and branding benefits, highlight reels, merchandise sales, heightened media attention, makes the move a high-stakes gamble that blends financial savvy with football strategy, a combination that could redefine how teams think about multi-quarterback approaches in the modern era. Rumors continue to swirl around the specific logistics of the trade. While official confirmation remains pending, sources close to the Browns suggest that meetings between front office executives, coaches, and both quarterbacks were highly secretive and intense, reportedly lasting late into the night. Conversations reportedly covered everything from play-calling preferences to locker room culture, and even extended to personal routines and mental preparation, reflecting an unprecedented level of detail and planning. There's even talk of a dual leadership strategy, where each quarterback could assume situational control depending on game context, creating a fluid, almost unpredictable offense. Insiders are buzzing about how this could affect the Browns' draft strategy, free agent signings, and even long-term team identity, as the front office seeks to position itself not just for immediate success, but for sustained competitiveness. For now, the NFL community waits with bated breath. Sports talk shows, podcasts, and social media channels are ablaze with speculation, teasing possible outcomes, and debating whether Cleveland has pulled off genius or courting disaster. One thing is clear. If the Bo Nix and Tua Tagovailoa rumors hold true, the Browns are no longer a team that can be underestimated. This could be the pivot that transforms a franchise long haunted by inconsistency into a team that dictates terms, reshapes expectations, and forces the rest of the league to pay attention. Cleveland might just be gambling on a high-risk, high-reward strategy that could define the season, not just for themselves, but for the NFL as a whole. Analysts warn that every snap, every decision, and every outcome this season could carry amplified significance, as fans and pundits alike scrutinize how two quarterbacks, with entirely different styles, coexist, compete, and potentially lead a storied franchise to uncharted heights. The buzz is real, the stakes are monumental, and the Browns appear ready to rewrite the narrative of their season in ways no one saw coming. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!